They say it's not about how you start, it's how you finish, but sometimes a rough start is enough to be cause for alarm. I'm Madeline Burke for Sports Illustrated alongside Howard Beck and Ben Pickman. And guys, as we look around the league at this early point in the season, who should be worried about a slow start? Howard, I'll start with you.
Well, I always try not to overreact in the early part of the season, but in the case of the Washington Wizards, I'm gonna be overreacting a little bit here. Look, it's not just that they're starting off 3-8, and yes, there have been some unfortunate mishaps along the way. They lose Thomas Bryant for the season with an ACL. Russell Westbrook's been out with a quad. They have been among the teams that have been heavily impacted by COVID and contact tracing and not having players available. But you don't get to have all of those caveats when you're the Wizards and you're on the clock with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal's 27 years old, firmly in his prime, did not make the All Star team last season, did not make All NBA last season, despite incredible stats. And he was not happy about it. And he was very public about not being happy about it. So if you're the Wizards, your primary goal, aside from trying to finally get over 500 and make the playoffs, is to keep Bradley Beal happy and to make him believe that this is where he should be playing for the duration of his career. And right now, that's a really hard case to make. On top of it all, Scott Brooks is in the last year of his contract, and the front office is going to be coming under its own scrutiny along the way. The Wizards, there's time yet here. Of course, Westbrook gets healthy, they can turn this thing around, but they're 27th in defensive efficiency. They can't stop anyone. And as it looks right now, I'd say that there's very little chance the Wizards are going to turn this around or make the postseason. And if that's the case, it's only a matter of time before Bradley Beal is asking for a trade.
And they're going to have to get on the floor first. Obviously, you mentioned the COVID issues that they're dealing with, and we hope everything there turns out okay. But I'm going to go the other way, but with another Eastern Conference team that is struggling. And let's go to the Toronto Raptors, another team that has had their lives uprooted because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I said the Toronto Raptors, but we should probably call them the Tampa Bay Raptors because they are playing this season in Tampa. And there's, of course, the questions about how that is impacting this team that has gotten off to just a 2-8 start. But there are also some on-court basketball issues, right? Look at them defensively. They were the number 2 team in defensive rating last year. Currently, they're number 21 overall, giving up just over 111 points per 100 possessions. And we really don't know what lineups are going to work well for Toronto. Of course, they lost Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka this past offseason, and we've seen their defense struggle. And the question is, will playing small be the answer, right? Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, Norm Powell, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam. That might be their best lineup, and it's currently their third most used lineup and one that's giving up just around 87 points per 100 possessions. But it still has a net rating because that lineup right there is struggling to score the basketball, averaging just over 75 points per 100 possessions. So while that might be their best five-man group in terms of pure talent, we've still seen some struggles, and Toronto, frankly, is running out of some time to fix some of these things. We saw some one-point losses earlier this week. Do I think they still probably are a playoff team? Yeah, I think they'll probably still make the play-in tournament, but I think the Toronto Raptors fans and organization had higher expectations for them heading into this year, and they've certainly underperformed so far.
Absolutely. And, for both of those teams, injuries and COVID protocols have been a factor, as with the Denver Nuggets. But it's not just that. The Nuggets were in the Western Conference Finals and one of the most fun teams to watch in the NBA bubble. And now they got Bol guarding Kevin Durant in his first career start. And so, they beat the Sixers without Simmons and Embiid. But Jokic is still playing with main character energy. But the second unit, they're struggling. And they lost a lot of role players in free agency. And it really shows. And head coach Mike Malone, he acknowledged it. He said, to be brutally honest, we lost Mason Plumlee. He's got over 530 NBA games. He was a starter on a playoff team. He lost Jeremy Grant. He's got 450 NBA games under his belt, a bunch of playoff games. You list Torrey Craig, who's been a rotational player, started 11 playoff games a year ago. They've lost a lot of experience and a lot of depth. And, it's not code red just yet. When they get Michael Porter Jr. back, perhaps that'll spark things. Gary Harris missed that Nets game with a personal issue. But it's clear that this is not the same Nuggets team that we saw last year, and they're going to have to do something if they want to get back to that Western Conference playoff level caliber. All right, well, that's a wrap for what we have today. Guys, thanks so much for the insight, and for more, continue to check out SI.com.